Welcome to the It Couple. I am your host, Dan St. Germain, with my beautiful wife,
Sarah. Nice to see you.
And Sam and his beautiful wife,
Winnie,
the one-eyed pug.
Love this dog, dude.
Sweetheart, dude.
Yeah, I'm pumped. This is you got me rewatching a movie that I it's like good to be excited to rewatch when you haven't seen in a while. So.
Yeah, it's a classic. And Sam's one of my oldest comedy friends, one of my best friends.
He was at our wedding.
Yeah, I mean, you know him from, Same Time Tomorrow. He's got a bunch of stand-up specials you can check out on Netflix, on YouTube, Comedy Central. I mean, the guy, it is crazy to be known for stand-up, and that's what you're known for.
Thanks, man.
That's like for me, someday it's going to be trying to kill a senator. But for you, it's stand-up.
There's some senators you might develop a following, though.
That's true.
Well, you picked the right Fetterman.
One.
Yeah, if I picked Fetterman. But yeah, you're a huge movie buff, man.
I love movies.
What of the three things we talk about besides comedy,
Well, yeah, you're on the road, you want to watch something good, and Hitchcock is the master of suspense. This is like his number one. It's rare to find a Rotten Tomatoes rating that's over 90 audience and critic.
Yeah.
And that's this old. I mean, that's kind of crazy.
And when it came out, apparently it was like the reviews were mixed.
Really?
Yeah, and then people kind of came around.
People shit on Hitchcock. Like Orson Welles always said.
Didn't win any Oscars. It was only nominated for a couple Oscars.
It was cinematography, I think.
There's a book, Orson Welles, called Lunches with Orson, where he just shits on everyone, but he was like, yeah, Hitchcock sucks.
Oh, God.
He just shits on every... The book is the funniest book ever, but he's like, that guy's trash.
Well, we were just watching a William Friedkin interview where he's like, they wanted Pacino in it. Bah!
Really?
Yeah. Like everybody had like the guys they hated. The Exorcist, which he would have been terrible.
Oh,
he would have been so bad in The Exorcist.
Damn.
But
yeah, that would have been.
Get out of here! Get out of here! You're inside of it. You gotta get out of here. Devil's like, I sucks cocks in hell. And he's like, well, you got an ass. Like Jesus Christ wouldn't believe.
I just watched, Friedkin I just watched? I'd never seen was To Live and Die in L.A.
I've never seen it.
It's insane. It's like every cliche in a cop movie ever, but like on crack because it's Friedkin. So yeah, it's literally like this one cop who's like, I got 2 days left, and you're like, well, that guy's dead. He was like 2 days till retirement. I'm like, well, why are you going undercover in this dangerous warehouse? But no, it's great. I mean, it's fun. It's William Peterson in the 80s.
These cops, they always decide to be risky on, like, if I had 2 days left of retirement, I'm not leaving my fucking desk.
Chill out.
I'm not going to be like, let me go check out what's going on in the sewer.
Right. Although you could die like the guy on The Sopranos who Christopher kills. I mean, he just left his party.
Well, if you're on the take, but I'm saying just like
that was a good
shot.
scene.
That's great, right?
Yeah,
right.
Tony's manipulative tactics.
Where he's like, I didn't do it. And he's like, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
He's like, I got to do it no matter what.
Yeah,
I'm in the mafia.
Oh, I love that.
Hitchcock's one of my favorites ever. I say Vertigo is probably my number one Hitchcock movie, but and Rear Window's so good.
Rear Window's so good.
I think I like Rear Window the best, but I haven't seen every Hitchcock.
Rope is an underrated one.
I've never seen Rope.
I mean, it's literally an hour and 7 minutes. It's the one shot style.
I love that.
And it's just two kids who are being like, we can get away with murder. And then they have a house party. That's how cocky they are. It's so funny. And the way they kill the guy, that's the funny thing about, I mean, we'll get into it, but this movie, the violence looks so damn funny.
Well, we'll get into the violence, but we're going to start out with something new, which we will be doing on podcasts from now on. The ones that aren't previously recorded that you heard about this, we won't be doing on them. But
that we recorded in
essentially,
July.
I'm watching this movie, and what lesson is this movie teaching you if you don't want to be killed, Sam?
I would say don't stay in shitty motels, but then I think about my first 7 years in comedy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I had no choice, It's
true.
Red roofs in.
Luckily, a creepy Norman Bates dude who's running a shady motel, he ain't chatting me up.
No.
That's where you feel guilty at the end, where they're like, were there any other unsolved crimes? They're like, yes.
You pull up and he stops masturbating. Like, all right. Another comic?
But
are you kidding me?
Yeah, also, if your motel has that many stuffed birds, leave.
I mean, I don't want to victim blame, but yeah. I think it's...
If he's talking at length about taxidermy, get the fuck out.
It feels like the whole
Get out.
It feels like the whole first half of the movie, the lesson is, if you're a woman, don't be getting any ideas. Just in
She does
general.
steal money, though.
What?
She does steal money.
She
does steal
steals
money.
almost 400. The equivalent would be $400,000 today.
414. I looked it up.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
I love that.
believe. Anytime they bring up money in an old movie, I'm like,
Yeah.
let me see what. Oh shit, that's a lot of
damn.
money. But that old guy is. That's the best thing about old movies is you can't tell who the bad guy is immediately because everyone's a piece of shit. Like this old guy's like, look at all this money I've got. I'm like, well, he's the bad guy.
I mean, technically,
clearly, you know?
he's worse than Norman. Like, because Norman's nice. It's just when he becomes his mom, then he's the asshole.
But you know what? I was watching with my girlfriend who had never seen the movie, and she goes, he's so sweet and awkward. And I was like, great judge of character you are. Jesus Christ, you're gonna get murdered.
Well,
I also said he was
me
handsome.
for being stupid.
I think he's handsome.
I think it is a weird thing where with these guys where that whole first half of the movie is a little bit of like Silence of the Lambs where every single man she meets is threatening.
Yeah.
Every single guy she runs into, and she finally meets somebody who seems nice, and he's the worst out of all of them.
Yeah, 'cause
Everyone
the cop,
gives her a
I guess
hard
it's just
time.
don't
the
trust
cop
men.
is stalking her. He's following her.
Yeah,
you
he's
never
scarier
see
than
his
anybody
eyes.
in
The
that.
car
He's the
salesman.
scariest.
By the way, I've never seen a car salesman been like, "Hold on, Missy."
Yeah. Are you sure you don't want to test drive? It's like, take the 700, asshole. Like, just get me out of here.
Also, it was way easier to just follow random women in the 50s and 60s.
I mean, I think it's pretty easy now.
Is it pretty
I just
easy
watched
now?
a whole thing on the Idaho murders last night, and because of social media, you kind of know where everybody is all the time.
That's true.
So I feel like
That's true.
But
Yeah, I
her
say no one would
sleeping
know
in the
where to find
car.
us as comedians. I'll be at the,
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
this comedy
Dude.
club. Yeah.
I always say that. Yeah, it's like meet me at this. How much? It's like an abandoned mental hospital by the river. $2,000. I'll see you there.
You got to pay for travel yourself, though.
yes, that's
I'll
it.
see you there.
You'll sleep in the car like
Yeah,
she
you
does.
know, so she, you know, she's on the road. She switches in the car. By the way, you feel bad for her, though, because first off, she only pulls into this motel because of the weather.
Right.
She's going to keep driving otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So she pulls in because of the weather. This dude, I remember seeing it the first time being like, yeah, even as a kid, I'm like, this guy's creepy as fuck. I don't like his vibe. It's also messed up that like they used to you could just tell who the villain was half the time in old movies by who the gay guy was.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
he effeminate? He's the fucking villain. One of my favorite movies of all time is another movie. Spoiler if you haven't seen it, Laura. So fast forward. Love the movie. Clifton Webb is gay.
Yeah.
He's the bad guy. Who's in love with Laura? Sure. But that's the real mystery of the film. But if you have a really good gay actor, like look, he's the awkward, effeminate guy in an old movie. So as a kid, you were almost programmed to be like, this is wrong. This doesn't fit.
Do you think there's some guys that are like closeted who are pissed off that gay is being accepted because they're like, man, I was really good at playing a closeted gay guy. Like
Yeah,
when
no,
they
probably
couldn't
still.
handle a gay guy. Now you know.
No,
there's
'cause I
all
think
this-
most big gay actors are so good at doing characters because they can't just like Rupert Everett couldn't just be I'm gay. He had to be like the suave straight guy.
Right.
Same with Neil Patrick Harris. His whole thing is like I'm a suave.
Oh, and I'm a
womanizer.
sex pest. Yeah, he's
Or
he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into the plot, obviously it's directed by Alfred Hitchcock,
Legend.
written by Joseph Stefano, which was based on a novel by Robert Bloch and inspired by the crimes of Ed Gein, who also inspired Silence of the Lambs. If you know anything about Ed Gein, which unfortunately I do,
He knows way too much about
quite
it.
a bit about
You know
it.
what? If I was going to profile you, I'd be like, that guy knows a lot about Ed Gein. Just taking one look, I'm like,
Dan
yeah.
fancies himself.
He's
a
not
real-
really like either. He's not really like Anthony Perkins or Hannibal Lecter. Like he's like Anthony Perkins.
He
in
was
the sense
fatter,
that
right?
He was no, he's like older, but he was
okay.
like no. John Wayne Gacy was the fat one, but he was more. He was really obsessed with his mom, so that's where they took the psycho thing, and he made clothes out of people's skin, which is the Buffalo Bill
Which is
thing. So
Buffalo
he was
Bill,
never
right.
like Hannibal Lecter, but yeah, he wasn't like a genius. He was like.
He was mentally handicapped.
Yeah, he was mentally handicapped, but they also like in town they would let him babysit their kids because they're like, oh, he's harmless,
Right.
Which he was
To
too young
kids.
to kids.
How old was he when he was doing
I mean,
this?
he was like in his I think he was in his 40s or 50s when they caught him.
Oh,
no,
really?
No
That
man
long?
should be babysitting in his 40s.
Well,
That's
the
a
thing
red
is, that
flag.
wasn't who he killed. He loved old women. That was his thing. He killed people that looked like his mom.
Because the mom was dead or she was still alive?
She had died, but he had mummified her.
Well, the crazy thing about this, so Norman Bates, I'm sure you've seen the movie if you're listening to this, transforms into his mom to commit the crimes. And it's women he's attracted to. Because the mom character in his mind is mad that he's attracted to these women. So I love that they're explaining this at the end. And he goes, anyone he was attracted to his less attractive sister. And you expect him to just be like, sorry. Sorry, didn't think you were much of a looker. Janet Leigh was hot.
Janet Leigh was
didn't make the cut.
In this. Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. He doesn't fuck with 4s and 5s. All right.
This is strictly A-list who's getting got at the Bates Motel.
Bernard Herrmann did the score, one of the most famous scores in history.
I used to use that ringtone, true story, I'd use a ringtone for an ex who wouldn't stop calling me. So anytime I get there, I'd be like, it's her. Yeah.
Sam dates very complicated but talented women.
Wait, that's not fair.
This one wasn't talented. No. This was in the old days. But she was complicated.
Hitchcock financed the movie himself, $800,000 budget. Movie made $50 million, so it was a huge risk. He did it in black and white because he couldn't afford Technicolor.
Well, there's two reasons. So he did it in black and white because he was trying to keep costs down. And the cinematographer said, I don't think it's going to look good in black and white. And then he's like, just trust me. And then the cinematographer ends up getting nominated for an Oscar. But also he said the shower scene, had that been in color, it would have been horrifying to people to see the blood, which was really Hershey syrup and water. Though. No, but that's what I was thinking about.
All that stabbing, I'm like, that's all we got?
I know. The one thing when they stab her in the stomach was done in reverse. I mean, we'll talk about all of that, but I got real into that.
I thought about that, though. There's certain movies that seen in the theater for the first time must have been just, clearly groundbreaking, but I thought this, Jaws, movies that you walked out like, what the fuck did I just see? It's hard for me to think about movies because we've been so,
Yeah, I'm trying to think the last time I've
they said that
left a movie and been like, what the fuck was that? I kind of was like
Hereditary did that to me. Going to the movie theater, any of those, Midsommar, all of those were kind of so fucked up. What was the other one? Burning Man? Not the Nick
Norman's
Cage one.
doing Midsommar and a couple.
Yeah. But Burning Man was fucking crazy.
Norman loves horror. I think
I didn't know he loved horror.
He does. I remember when I left Social Network, I was like, damn, that was a fucking great movie.
Yeah.
Just had everything. But yeah, it's hard to think of movies you left scared. I'm trying to think of.
I left. When I left Paranormal Activity scared. The found footage stuff gets me. Well, yeah, because you can't think of it as a movie.
But
it's
only the
ride.
Original, because once they make
scared me too.
I don't know, because then you just know it's all. The first one, you're like, wait, is this real footage? Did this really happen? And by the second one, you're like, I know this whole trope.
Unbelievable.
Spiel. So did you have any more things you want to talk about?
Well, I did want to say, Sam gave us a very depressing article about Anthony Perkins dying of AIDS.
Yes.
After I watch a movie, I read reviews usually. Because I feel dumb sometimes if I miss something. I'm like, let me read this review, and then I'll do a deep dive, especially with old movies, because you want to just know about the people involved in the movies. And Anthony Perkins, first off, he died of AIDS. Want to know how his wife died?
How?
She was on a flight on 9/11.
Shut up.
Yep.
No.
Can you imagine your kid?
What?
Can you imagine that there are two kids? Look it up. You're one of the two kids. Your dad died of AIDS. Your mom died of 9/11. First off, you can't go to a comedy club for the rest of your life.
First off, if you're their therapist, are you Googling boats during the section? You're condos. Or man, I'm gonna be able to put every kid through college. We got
my God, she died on Flight 11. Isn't that one of the ones that hit? I think it hit Tower 2 or something.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. That's brutal stuff.
It was Tower 2.
It's the first one.
And,
the first one.
So he had AIDS.
Jesus Christ.
He also had a long-standing affair with another, romantic lead from the 50s, 60s named Tab Hunter, who is an actor who I actually did an episode of Red Eye on Fox News with back in the
handsome.
day.
Look how young he was.
Yeah, he was good.
Really?
My goodness.
Is he conservative?
No, he was just that show was more just wacky, and he was pitching a book.
Yeah, he has a book.
He wrote a life story book, and I'm sure he talked about the affair.
Because he was everybody's lover, I think, too.
Yeah.
Wasn't he a little...
Good-looking guy.
Yeah, very
Huge
handsome.
fucking head.
That's what you say about everyone, including
big
your wife.
Actors, I think they usually have They have big heads.
You said I have a
pretty
big
big
head.
I have a huge head. Yeah, you
It's
have a
huge
big head.
fucking melon.
She has a big head.
You don't have a big head. I don't know what.
He kind of has a big head.
No.
Somewhat big.
It's fine. It's like a Hollywood thing. You know?
It is.
That's how you make big money. Now, the one thing before we get into the plot, which then I'll cut to you, the one thing that that was so interesting reading this is like kind of creepy, but I guess some dad sent Hitchcock a note saying that after watching this movie, I can no longer shower with my daughter.
Jesus Christ.
Did he say what age she was?
Oh no! I think it was younger. Hey, let me tell you something. If it's over 4, the answer's not good. It's not
So
good.
before the answer is thank God. We saved you from showering
But
with
I
your
also
father.
don't think my dad never even bathed me. I don't think. Like my mom
Dad
did
never
all of
bathed you?
that. Bathed.
This is like the other side of it. Where it's like he wasn't even like 1996. He wasn't even around.
No, that's just odd. Yeah.
It is when you're a kid. I mean, we'll get to the movie, but it is when you're a kid showering with your dad. Like when you're.
Have
like
you
a little
showered
kid.
with your dad?
I missed out on a lot of this.
Did you
yeah.
shower?
No.
You're the whole time you're like, penises can be this big. the
Well,
entire time.
I mean, I would take baths
You're like,
with
this is
like my
crazy.
and this hard.
sisters,
Oh
I
my
think.
God. This is crazy. Yeah.
I don't think I ever saw. I mean, God rest his soul, my father, but I never saw his huang. I never saw
What?
it. I never saw my dad's dick. You saw
Yeah, that's
yours.
how it should be.
Right? That's how it should.
You're saying this like it's a revelation. Yeah, my dad never whipped it out in front of me. I guess I missed out. I don't know. You're not supposed to see
When
your
Stevie
dad's
Nicks'
dick.
Landside starts playing. I've been dreaming of chodes now. All right.
This hits deep though for any Jew because it's like an overbearing mom. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, all right, this is definitely like, you know,
She's such a nag.
Is that a Jewish thing, an overbearing mom?
oh yeah, Jews, Italians,
yeah.
definitely.
It's fair. And they were talking about this in the documentary 7850, which is about the shower scene, that, you know, the mothers back then were always seen as annoying and like pests, you know, and they always had a comment. They didn't like somebody. They didn't like the women. And in this case, the mom, who you really do think in the beginning, if you've never seen it, is a real person who's breathing and saying these things. Also, I do have a quick question. How did Janet Leigh hear the mom screaming from
That's
up in
a
the
question.
house?
That's the one
that was
where it's
never
like,
explained in 7850.
Which we'll go. We should start the
Which
movie.
she went
but-
from the house
When
or
she
yeah,
starts
she's in
screaming.
their apartment. She hears she hears them talking to the. And it's like
To the mom.
and it's not like the mom's not screaming the whole time, so she's literally like hearing the conversation.
Yes.
Like I was like, are you an X-Men? Like, how does this
Right.
at all
It's so
possible?
ho- yeah.
But you know, in actuality, because that was on a studio lot, maybe you could hear. Like that was the big in the '60s. That was the big draw for the Universal Hollywood tour, is that you would stop and you would
see
check out the
Psycho
House.
House.
That was the big stop.
yeah, the house. I also, as a Jew, I was also like, man, it's a nice piece of real estate, right?
It
there.
really
That-
is.
That house, you're like, that's run down. Then you see the
You just
inside.
kept
You're
saying
like,
stuff as a Jew, and as a Jew, I was like yarmulke, matzo ball. You just
but I was looking. I was expecting it to. I mean, he's keeping a corpse in the house. I was like, the rest of us is pretty well maintained,
fine.
honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was beautiful,
I was
actually.
expecting it to look more like hoarders or something, but it
Yeah.
was like actually like a pretty nice place.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, if it was like really like one of those places, there'd be no suspense because you couldn't get in any room. It would just be like hitting like old Life magazines and being like, I think
Stepping
something
over
fucked up is
the
back there.
carcasses of dead animals.
I'll tell you, they
Yeah.
did a remake.
Sorry, Winnie.
Gus Van Sant did a remake in
It
the
was
late
Gus
90s.
Van Sant.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's him, and it was Anne Heche.
And Vince Vaughn.
And Vince
Vince Vaughn.
And the only difference, the shot-for-shot remake, but the only difference I remember is, you know, when he's looking through the peephole at Janet Leigh?
Yeah.
In the Vince Vaughn version, he starts jacking off.
Oh, God.
I was like, this is
Was that
your
in the
creative
storyboard?
addition to the movie?
Yeah.
He's like, I got, everything's perfect except one thing.
Yeah.
Vince, you know what to do.
Well, it's just so weird that like Gus Van Sant is a really good director.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I love his work.
Yeah, Elephant and fucking Good Will Hunting, and then
And
it's like
the one, My Own Private Idaho.
My Own Private Idaho.
I love that
It's just
movie.
so weird that if like I got if you know if I got famous for anything, it's like all right, time to make my version of Goodfellas. You know what I mean? It's like
they were trying to stay true to the original storyboards that Hitchcock had. So they were trying to shoot it exactly how he had planned it. And because of the censors and everything else, he couldn't show Janet Leigh's naked body. But Anne Heche had no problem showing her butt crack.
They should have just called it Psycho with Titties. That would have been a...
Well, Janet Leigh was freaking hot. I mean,
Smoking.
to have that haircut and still be hot is a flex.
It's a flex for sure. Well, let's get into the movie.
Yeah, great. Let's get to the movie. So we open, like most Hitchcock films, I feel like you come in as a voyeur. Like, we're following the eye coming through the Phoenix hotel room where she is embraced by her lover, Sam.
Yeah.
And she wants to marry. It's Marion. She wants to marry Sam, but he's bankrupt. He has alimony. He's in the process of a divorce. His dad had a lot of debt. So you do get like kind of the sense of, okay, this woman, money is an issue.
Yeah.
So when things happen down the line, you're like, okay, that's why she did that.
And by the way, this is like any noir. Is like the main character makes a bad decision that is going to come back to bite them in the ass.
Right. But normally they don't die so soon in the movie, which was another thing.
And you're on the poster. Her face is the poster.
They said that they used a different actress for the coming attraction, so you didn't know that Janet Leigh was the one who dies in the shower, which is actually kind of fascinating too. It's like because they didn't want it to be a spoiler.
Well, they used in the preview they used what's her name, the woman who's her sister.
The actress who played the sister.
Oh yeah.
Vera Miles. No, I'm sorry, Lila Crane.
No, I think it was Vera Miles.
It's Vera Miles.
No, Anthony Perkins. No, I think it's Vera Miles is the character's name, right? Or no, you're right.
No, because it's Crane.
You're right, Lila Crane.
It's Marion.
Well, guys, sometimes I should really pay attention to what I'm writing down.
I'm gonna start hosting this with Sam. He does all of his research.
This was So then she makes a bad decision.
Yep.
She takes the money from this dude.
Right, because then we cut to they're in a real estate office where she works. She was on her lunch break, having sex with Sam.
And by the way, she gets picked as the hot one again, right? Because in the first scene, the other woman's like, I guess he didn't notice me. And we're like,
no, she says, because he knew I was married. That's why he didn't hit on me.
Who was Hitchcock's daughter in real
She also offers her a tranquilizer because she said she has a headache.
Yeah.
So, and then she offers her a tranquilizer. Yeah, so this Mr. Lowry
men really did not want to deal with women shit back then. Instead of a
they
Tylenol,
still
like,
want to
here's
now?
a tranquilizer.
here's a brick. Just go ahead, just fucking dent it over your head.
So she works in the real estate office with Mr. Lowry. He's got this big douche of a client, Cassidy, who is buying a house for his daughter, and then he goes into this whole spiel about spoiling his baby. It's a little gross. It's a little, and he has $40,000 in cash, which, how much is it today?
$414.
$414.
And he just hands it to her, like put it in the bank, and he hands it to her because she's hot.
Right.
She's a victim of being hot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know?
This is attractive person privilege.
She also never gives in to him. Like, she's in control that entire time.
Yeah.
Janet Leigh you never really see her become vulnerable, I think, until the shower. Like, she kind of is alpha in all of those scenes. I think
she gets pretty vulnerable when she's in the car.
Yeah, she pulls over to the side of the road to sleep.
Sure, by herself, but with other people.
Which, by the way, you pulled over on a highway to sleep in Phoenix.
I know.
Let's say you were on borrowed time from then on out. You got lucky you didn't get killed then. Come on. There's a lot of moments where like this could have been it.
That's killing somebody in their car is an Arizona hello. So come on, guys.
So she gets the money. She's supposed to deposit it on Monday. It is a Friday. She has to leave early. She has a headache. She goes home. She starts to pack because she's decided now she's going to take that money and bring it to Sam, and they're going to run away and live in California together. Mm-hmm. So she gets in her car, and as she's leaving, she sees the two guys walking in the street. She almost hits her boss, and he does a double take and sees her, but isn't she supposed to be home?
Yeah.
Sick, not feeling well. Where is she going?
Well, if you haven't seen the movie, the boss really chews the scenery during this double take.
But
He's
he
looks around and it's and because it's a studio backdrop, it looks really awkward.
Yeah.
But have you ever come this close to committing a crime, babe, and come back?
I'm trying to think if I used to. I mean, I never stole. Well, yeah. All right. I worked at CVS in high school. And we used to take damaged things and eat them and drink them. So you could just open a can of Coke and be like, oh my God, it's damaged, and then drink it. I stole makeup. Mm-hmm. But nothing. I mean, when someone gives me too much money back, I get nervous and I give them back. Like I couldn't just walk away.
I don't like owing
someone's
people money, like friends' money in real. I like to just be like, oh, we're good here, you know.
Yes.
The closest I ever came was I guess I was like 22, and I was still drinking quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And I went to a gas station. I was wearing a Cactus Jack shirt, who's a professional wrestler, and the guy who was running the gas station complimented the shirt, and I was so hammered, I was like, he won't mind if I take some bean dips. So I literally put
only
a bunch
you would
of
steal bean dips,
Fritos and bean dips under my shirt and tried. And I tried, but I was so drunk, and I tried. It literally looked like, you know, when you watch a cartoon and the two kids are on each other's shoulders in the trench coat. And so he just goes, "Come on, man!" And then I just, and I like put it back. That's me drunk. That's not me doing a deaf person. And then I literally put it all back and then walked out. But that's
the only thing you've ever tried to steal?
That's worse than you running out with it.
I agree.
I actually think, I always said I got away with it, but I think that's worse than being arrested.
Oh,
yes.
No, the arrest would be so sad. If you had bean dip and they were cuffing you, that would be terrible.
Especially because you know one cop's just going to go,
and if you've
come
ever
on, man,
seen,
bean dip, come on.
If you've ever seen Dan drunk, it is just like a hot mess anyway. Like you're sloppy and things fall. So I can't imagine you even being swift enough to get out of that.
No, it wasn't like Ocean's 11. It was Ocean's Diabetic.
But if you were handed $400,000 today in an envelope, I would be fucking so nervous.
Especially when
get
money has
murdered.
it's been exactly, and it's also been the subject of. I mean, that was their whole conversation was money. You're thinking about money, and she tries to get away with it, and there's so many brushes where it's kind of like you should maybe not do. Like the first one's the cop.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's a lot of things like, are you? And then the saddest thing is when she eventually does want to, she's like, I'm going to return it.
Yes. And that's
Sheriff
after the conversation
Alex
she has with
Chambers.
him.
No, wait, I'm sorry.
She has the conversation with Norman Bates, and it's almost then that she realizes that's what she's going to do. Because she's like, I have to go back and make things right. The other thing is, too, talking about how Janet Leigh is just very stoic throughout. Like, she's just, the cop, she's like, you're keeping me from my day. Like, what person could say that to a cop today and be able to pull out? Do you know what I mean?
Still a white woman.
Still a white.
This is true.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I've ever gotten sassy with a cop.
I was waiting at one point for her to go, but officer, I'm white.
White.
I'm a white officer.
Woman.
I'm a white woman.
And then he follows her, which is
that was
so fucking
creepy.
scary.
That was
Yep. So you're like, is he going to do something?
Yeah, there's a lot of. He could tell she's up to something, but it's still, even though she's breaking the law, he was creepy. His presence was.
Well, that's how those guys, you know.
Well, he looked creepy. He never took off the sunglasses. He stared at her from afar when she goes to buy the car because she's like, shit, people are going to see me in this and know that I ran off. So let me trade in the car. To your point, the guy was like, you sure you don't want to spend more time in the car? And
literally, everyone's like, think this through. You're making a bad decision. And she's still like, no, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right.
And she
She's
just pulled out with other
when
plates.
She goes and gets another car to try to like throw off the cop's scent.
Who's watching her?
Who's watching
the
her
whole
across
time.
the street?
Doesn't make any sense at all. She just reminds me when she's trying to be a criminal, it's very much when I try to like smoke weed before class in high school where it's like so blatant. But she thinks she's being slick. Like she thinks she's being slick, but
yeah.
And she loses him eventually.
It's all red herring anyway. The whole first half of this movie is a red herring.
It's true.
It doesn't matter. The whole first half of this
No,
movie
and
really
eventually the money
matter
doesn't even matter.
until the very end.
Yeah.
They bring it up again. And that's like kind of the noir trick where it's like, oh, this is what she...
Right. So she because the cop keeps following her, she has to pull over to like a dirt road, if you will. And then it gets really bad, the weather, and she can't see.
She has the new...
She's in the new car.
She's in the new car.
Yeah,
Well,
she's already in the new car. Well, no, the cop stays and watches her pull out, and then he follows her.
After that, right?
I think he does follow her after that.
I think
she has to pull off.
She gets away. Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't follow her after that.
And then the weather's so bad, she pulls into the Bates Motel.
Bates Motel.
Which I feel like you and I we love a little roadside motel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you love that and have accepted how poor I am.
But it's never,
you don't have to love that.
It's never like a shithole. Like I do my Well, when we were in
Really
Montreal, I made them
depends
come change the sheets.
That was bad.
Because I thought there were bed bugs.
There was no fitted sheet.
It was just a loose sheet on a mattress.
seen
And I
that.
was
I
like,
hate
I
that.
am so sorry.
Oh, I
I'm going
remember
to need a mattress
the early days of stand-up, just the hotels. I remember one in Peoria, Illinois, and I was like, all I want is to stay in a hotel with like less than 5 neck tattoos.
Oh, just sleep in.
That's all I want.
Just
Too
sleep
many
inside
neck
the chalk
tattoos.
lines. Just sleep inside the chalk lines. You'll be fine.
No, some of those you're like, this is sketchy as hell.
Yeah.
Like
But-
you're scared.
But
to,
there's
like,
so
even
many
make-
red flags here too. I mean, first off, you know, he comes off sweet, as you know, my girlfriend was saying, but then he the line that's the most famous line of the movie, we all go a little mad sometimes. Get the fuck out of there. I don't care if it's raining. You've got a better shot of beating the weather than a dude who says we all go crazy.
Yes.
Really one of the most classic lines in cinema, and then you immediately watch it and you're like, wow, you are a way better actor than Skeet Ulrich. Because he does the same thing in Scream, and you're like, man, this is, you really...
Scream is fun, though.
Scream's great.
He's very disarming,
Sam
though.
Roberts is doing Scream. Coming up.
Anthony Perkins. Like, he is very lovely. Like, as a woman, you feel sort of safe. You don't think he's that creepy, which he gives that appearance. And then he switches when he starts talking about his mom. You feel bad for him. You're like, oh, this guy's a loser. He has no friends. He says a boy's only friend is his best friend is his mom. So
And right then you're like, that's another red flag.
And then he gets crazy
Yes,
when
a
she
boy,
says,
not a 30 to 40-year-old man. Get out of the fucking house.
yep.
Find some actual friends.
And then she tells him, like, I heard the way she speaks to you. Like, you shouldn't let her. Maybe you should institutionalize her. And then he gets crazy again.
Yeah.
And then he, like, leans in. And that's when you realize he's fucked
because
up.
she's saying you should put yourself in an institution.
Exactly. And the mom didn't like that. Also, he was aroused by Janet Leigh. So the mother didn't like that in his brain. And so
He's like, I love the short hair, not the tits.
But he does. He's got. he does bring her sandwiches and milk, and they sit there and they have this scene and talks about taxidermy.
Brought her milk, man. But like, when's the last time you've been like thirsty for milk?
Well,
I think
that
that's the creepiest.
I mean,
People used to drink milk.
Just
I feel
used
like
to-
it was up until like the 90s. You'd have a glass
down
of
it.
milk.
there was a whole campaign about milk growing up.
Yeah.
I know, but it's like now it's like
Do
if
you
somebody
drink milk?
if I brought somebody home and it was like a new relationship, friendship, whatever, and they were like affair,
Please,
and I
please
brought
do
them in,
it.
and the first thing I said, hey, you want something to drink? And they were like, can I just get a cold glass of milk? I'd be like, get the fuck
All right,
out of my house.
you know who likes a cold glass of milk? My mom.
Only
So
with
this
cookies.
makes
With cookies, if you're eating cookies,
That's not where it comes
Yeah,
from.
it's like an Oreo. I need an Oreo.
No, if you want to dunk the, you know, a dessert or of some
Yeah,
sort.
but I'm just like you're playing ball in the park.
No,
and
me-
then you're like,
Did you
what's
ever
this?
have warm milk as a kid? Did
Oh,
your
yeah.
parents ever do
Yeah,
that?
my mom would do that for
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Oh, it's not
And I would
bad.
say, Mother, thank you for the warm milk. No,
Mother.
no, the milk with.
I promised to like girls one day, mother.
But milk with like steak, I feel like that's like an old timey.
Oh,
That would have.
and ketchup on
Just
the
using
steak.
the cow for everything.
Oh,
just
man.
everything. Just wearing.
Speaking of steak, this is actually the sound effects for the stabbing. They used a melon
Yeah, let's get to the stabbing scene.
and they used raw sirloin to get that.
The right melon.
Not
too.
a lot of blood. I know this is a shocking scene, and I know this is back then. You have to put yourself, you know, in the body of someone in the 1960s. where you're
Yeah.
like, all right, but this is not. You watch it now, and you're like, it's scary because of what it is, but like the actual, there's no blood. He cleans up the whole thing in like 6 minutes, and you're like, that's
Yeah.
not
He
how long it
does,
should.
yeah.
At this point, you're like, you should be killing more often. If
mean,
it only takes 6 minutes.
Our cleaning lady's in our bathroom for like an hour after Dan takes
know.
a
Well,
shit.
What
So-
made me
and we don't
realize?
have a cleaning lady more than once a month, so you can only imagine how bad that
Guys,
bathroom is.
Big spoiler alert.
Dan has-
big spoiler alert. Which I don't know how you don't know this, but Norman is his mother. Okay, that's who Psycho is. It's Norman.
But you don't know that at
acting
first.
as his not right now. But the point that I'm trying to make is that like this scene is so terrifying. It's when Norman stabs her. It still works. Still a great scene. But if I did a remake of this, I would have Norman like show the scenes of Norman dressing up as his mom.
I would love that.
And it just becomes Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah.
The movie stops becoming a thriller. If you just show him like running into a scene, be like, "Oh, gotta get this on! The cops here! I gotta get it!" Like it becomes a whole different. It becomes like the Clumps or something.
No,
it's a
bananas.
darker Mrs. Doubtfire
It's
if
like-
that's who's coming to watch
yeah.
the kids.
It's a dark Mrs.
Yeah.
Doubtfire. That's what this.
Mrs. Doubtfire itself is kind of a horror movie if you think about it. Like, it's really fucking creepy. Can't the dad, if he wants to spend time with his kids, just go and see that your
Mike
kids.
Racine has a great joke.
Yeah.
Oh, he does?
We haven't heard it. But,
Call him up. Let's get him.
Do you? This is a question that I had. This is, I guess, what percentage of motels do you guys think have peepholes?
Oh, all of them. I think every single hotel has. If you're in that room, I watch a lot of TikTok videos of flight attendants going through their room and being like, "Do this to be safe. Do this to be safe. Put the extra lock on. Do all this." And I usually just do the
and
bed
she gets
bug.
on flight 93.
And then she's with Anthony Perkins' wife.
Let me help Anthony Perkins' mom onto this flight.
Yeah, please.
I had that happen to me in a hotel in Baltimore. They tried to. It was like 2:30 a.m. and they tried to open the door on me.
Oh my god!
And I'm a fucking road vet. I had the extra lockup.
Yeah.
But then I was like, this is how much of a New Yorker am I? had pepper spray out. Like, what, motherfucker? and he goes, oh, wrong room. And I'm like, then why do you have a key card? So in my head, I'm like, someone at the front desk gave him a key card.
Right.
Oh, he was trying to get in your room
like,
and beat.
yeah. And then he was like, I called the front desk. He was not apologetic. He was like, I made a mistake.
Oh.
And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I got set up.
You totally got set up.
Yeah.
I left my fucking.
And this is how fucking used to the road I am. I fell asleep like a baby right after that.
Yeah. I was at the funny
Clutching
bone.
her.
I woke up and I left my door open. Like I left the lock on so you could just walk into me.
Nobody wanted to kill you.
Nobody wanted. Everything was. I had more money. I woke up the next day. They had left more money for me.
They walk in, they're like,
leave.
this guy's in more pain staying alive. We'll just let him.
So
With the peephole thing, I've gone the other way where it's like now if I don't have a fan of people, I think it's a worse side because it's like maybe they built this on a toxic dump and it's not even the perverts who want to be around this thing, you know?
Oh, so you think that having like a hidden cam somewhere?
At least I know that it's
There's
sanitary enough to live in that room.
But you also have to think like
No one's jerking off to me though.
That peephole's
no
not
one's
coming in
sure.
handy. You got to figure the talent at that motel ain't that great other than Janet Leigh. Like
Yeah.
I think most of the time you look through that peephole, people, it's like a fucking sad looking trucker or something.
Yeah,
because he tries to give her a different room, doesn't he? Doesn't he try to go over
it's a
3
guy
and then he
like-
gives her 1? He's like, you're closer to the office if you need anything. Because he's choosing with the key, remember? He goes to get like a different key and he wants to stare at her because he's aroused by her. And he knows she's going to change.
Then she like takes her shirt off and he sees her boobs. He's like, gross.
Ew.
What is this?
So first, Marion, you see through the peephole her changing and undressing, putting a robe on.
Yeah.
And then she walks away and then he leaves and goes back into the house. And Marion starts writing down the money. Like she's writing down the $40,000 and she took $700 out of it. So she has now decided in the morning she's going to drive back to Phoenix, admit what she did, and come clean.
First thing I thought after she's getting murdered is that is going to be a clue.
Yeah.
The sheet that she wrote on.
And it was.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
This is
'Cause
why
she
I'll never.
flushes it down the toilet, then gets in the shower.
Yeah. But I thought she put it in the waste paper basket.
No, she throws it in. She flushes in the toilet in the way that the sister and lover find it. There's one little piece stuck in
That's
like
what
the
it
lid.
is.
That
Got
he,
it.
yeah.
I wrote a couple really dark thrillers, and they were so hard for me to write, and I've had so much more success with comedy than thrillers. But like the reason I thought of like this scene made me realize like, oh, I'm so much better at comedy than thrillers because like I couldn't think of a scarier scene, but I was like, oh, the scary movie scene in this is the guy going like, oh, I shouldn't have had that burrito, and then he just starts shitting instead of stabbing her, and she's got to like wait to get stabbed, and I'm like. She's like, do you need help? Oh man, I forgot to fill the toilet paper here. Sorry, keep going.
No,
I do love that movie.
So then after this, after she disappears, they bring in one of my favorite actors, Martin Balsam.
He's awesome, dude.
He's so
That dude's in like every
good.
good like
I think there's like 3 cops.
He
in this,
plays a
and
private
he's the
investigator
most famous
hired by Mr. Lowry and then the rich guy to
Yeah.
look for the money.
So
Won
he's-
an
I mean-
Oscar. He won an Oscar.
he's in Taken to Pelham 1, 2, 3, the original, which is one of my all-time favorite
I've
movies.
never seen the original.
The
I've just
ori-
seen the John
remake?
Carpenter one.
The original is incredible. It's
Yeah.
one of the best. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And then he's in like 12 Angry Men. That
Yeah,
guy. He's in All the President's Men. He's in like, I mean, the amount of movies this guy's in.
He won an Oscar for something, but he's he's excellent. That guy.
and he's the PI. This goes against. I mean, it's classic Hitchcock going against all the cliches.
Yep.
The PI shows up, and you're like, well, he's going to help solve this.
Right.
Oh, no, he ain't.
No, he does the opposite of that. You would be a great... I was thinking of this. I was like, you have the voice of a PI.
Yes.
You would
Thank
be a
you,
great...
And the style.
Private eye.
I love
It's a shame
PI
that
movies.
it's being used.
Dan thinks... We watched True Detective many years ago, and Dan... We probably first started dating. He leans into me. He's like, I'd be a great detective. And I'm like, no, you wouldn't, because you can't find shit ever. I would have to be finding everything for you, and you would take the credit.
It's just such a waste that this... Like, Sam's voice is being used... on comedy because it's such a PI voice.
Yes.
Like, instead of like he's dirty, he's going like, check out table 6. Take it easy on the white claws.
Let me try this. Hold on.
It's a bachelor.
Hold on. Kid never had a chance. There we go.
Yeah, that's great.
No,
That's great.
I always wanted to do like one of my favorite. I always want to do like give me a fucking Philip Marlowe role, like a remake of like Long Goodbye or something like that. You know,
because even like during breakups, you act like a PI. They're like, hey,
Because you stalk them? Like,
no, not stalking. But
no, because I drink alone at a bar.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Next time, babe.
We should.
No, at first I act like I'm like bogey in the beginning of a breakup, and then I'm cool. At first I'm like, hey, kid, you know, maybe in another life.
Yeah.
Cut to like 10 minutes later, like, you fucking bitch, you lied to me.
You're just Mark Furman.
You play it cool at first, and then
for sure.
So yeah, the PI shows up.
PI shows up because he's also Norman has cleared. Mother has come in.
He throws
her.
the car in the
throws
lake.
the car in like this big, what is it, like a mud hole or some
type
swamp.
thing, yeah.
And the money's in there.
Yeah.
Because she has at
It was
one
a crime
point,
of passion.
Yeah.
It was a crime of passion.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe he saw her put the money away and he was going to kill her. Like, because I truly had not seen this movie, before. I just saw parts of it. But the money ends up not even being anything that gets used down the road. It's just the catalyst to get her to leave, to get her there, and to get the PI. Because the PI is not hired by her family. He's hired by the guy with the money. So he doesn't give a shit
Is
whether...
that like Fargo as well? The money is just gone, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So it's like... And this is also...
Well, the money's not gone. No, at the very end, they get the money back.
No,
In Fargo,
they don't,
it's in the
honey.
snow.
It's still buried in the
It's
snow.
Fargo.
Still buried.
Oh, I thought you meant Psycho.
In
Sorry.
Fargo,
Yeah.
but not in Psycho. It's
In Fargo,
it's
it's
gone.
still buried.
Yeah,
It's gone
so
in both.
So the PI shows up, and he starts kind of snooping around. And one thing Anthony Perkins does that I love is he's always eating candy corn, like when he's talking to people. And that was his choice.
It's a creepy candy.
Uh-huh.
It's like, because no one, like, I eat it because it's there.
I like candy.
I like it too, but it's no one goes to the store and is like, I'm gonna get candy. It's like picking circus peanuts, or like it's like a shitty
I don't think
candy.
it goes
is a
bad.
shitty
Like
candy.
I think you could eat candy corn from like the 90s.
Dude,
right
if you
now.
go to CVS, you're not picking candy corn.
No.
No.
You'll eat it if it's there, but
Yeah.
you pick like a good candy.
Oh, yeah, if you had a
pick
bowl
peanut
of it
M&Ms,
here,
or-
I would be eating it.
Exactly.
I'd be like, oh, all right.
It's a shame. We may see no candy corn in our lifetime. We may see that. You know, they said about elephants. We could see a disappearance
Of candy corn?
by the
Never.
time we're older, man.
No. There's always gonna be candy.
There's
corn.
always
a
candy
candy
corn.
corn.
I love it on Halloween. I'm not even trashing it, but like I've never been to the store like I need candy corn.
A little bag of it, which is what he's popping in his
But
mouth.
I am always happy to see it. I will say that.
Candy corn's big lore is that you eat it and you're like, oh fuck, it's chalk, and you're like, no, it's not. It's good.
Right.
That's it. Like you eat it, you start eating, you're like, this isn't something I
The
should eat.
consistency sucks, and
Yeah.
then you swallow it, and you're like, oh, that was
So why did he
delicious
choose
cake.
candy corn?
So he chose it because Hitchcock just kind of like gave him, he's like, all right, you can do what you want in the scene. And he's like, I just feel like it's awkward. Like the sounds, like him chewing, he thought it would be uncomfortable for the PI in that scene.
Well, he was also apparently he only let these were the only two actors he would let improvise, Janet Leigh and Anthony Perkins. No one else in any of his other movies he would let improvise. So I wonder why that was.
Probably because it's
He trusted them.
I mean it's also a character where you can find shit because it's so weird.
Yeah.
Especially her, not as much. Him, I really like. That's when you should let.
Yeah, that's a creepy,
Yeah.
You
for
should let
sure.
him do his thing a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, there's a form of acting, I call it the Brad Pitt school of acting, where actors will eat to make a scene more interesting.
Yeah.
So, like, they'll chew stuff because it takes you out of the moment, and I think that's what Anthony Perkins was trying to do. Brad Pitt
only
is chewing
handsome
in
actors,
every
though.
fucking movie.
Only
This is
handsome,
true. You don't
like,
want to
you
see some ugly.
You can't have like young John Goodman
Goodman
eat a sub during a scene, you know? Like that's not gonna.
Yeah, no. No one wants
Yeah.
to see that.
Instead of you're like that wasn't a choice. He couldn't wait in between
Craft
takes.
services.
This
Yeah.
PI Martin Balsam, he is hired by Janet Leigh's employers to see what's going on with his money. He ends up going to Perkins, who kind of like deflects. and he calls up her sister and says, something's not right here. I think I gotta go back to this. I gotta go back to this house. He ends up going back to the house. Opens the door. We see. Have you ever gone to somebody's place and opened a door and been like, "Oh fuck, this was a bad movie"?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have before.
Yeah.
I've done that with my grandfather. I've done that with a few people where I'm like, "Oh, Grandpa really likes American Girl dolls," like stuff you don't really want to know. But then he sees something and then is attacked by. He's attacked by Mother, aka.
But when he goes into the second, he comes back.
Yeah.
He reports back and he seems honorable.
Second time. This
Yeah,
is
he
the
wants
second
to come
time.
back. You're right, because he's called her from a payphone and then he drives back.
He drives back and he goes into the house.
Yep.
And I'm gonna side with Mother on this one. That's trespassing.
I agree.
You can't come into my
In Florida,
home.
there's no problem. There's no crime.
You're
Oh, God,
watching
no.
that in Texas.
No,
You're
no,
like,
no.
he stood his ground.
He did. Yeah.
Mother stood her ground.
They would have been like, "Oh, he stood his ground," and then they found out he was dressed as a woman. Put him in jail.
Well,
Put him in jail.
That's my favorite part of this is like this is literally like made for Republicans. This movie where where it's like he dresses as a woman. Oh my! Like the Psycho 2 is just him dressed as Mother, but he's kidnapping kids from public restrooms. That's the second movie.
It's just him trying to go to the bathroom the whole time. The whole time. All right, so we're at the point now where everybody who is supposed to be dead is dead, and they get the idea.
Sam and the sister.
Yeah, they can't find Sam and
Lila.
Well, can't find, cannot.
It's also against type that now it's like there's no romance,
No.
right? Because the romance is dead. So now you're teaming up
Right.
with the ex is teaming up with the sister.
There
Right.
was- you could
and there's
see there was
no
times-
romantic chemistry.
There was a time
whatsoever
or
between them.
two where he's looking at her like, maybe.
I think he's looking at Anthony Perkins more like that when he's like, it's just you and
That
I, and they
dude
go into the
was-
office.
That actor who played Sam was the ambassador to Mexico as part of Reagan's administration.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
He must have been friends with Reagan from their time acting, I would
Yeah,
guess.
they probably did films
Yeah, I
together.
imagine.
But he's in a lot
Imagine
of
how many
movies too.
dumb fucking actors Reagan tried to like appoint and like let's make this guy Secretary of State. You're like Shirley Temple? Who? Like
She was an ambassador, though.
Yeah, how is this person
She
going to
Shirley Temple
solve Israel
Black.
Palestine with a jig?
She was.
You know, you out of your mind. She actually was. Yeah, she actually ended up.
But this dude, he was a hunky guy for sure.
He was handsome.
And he also was like,
settle down.
a real man.
but him and Janet Leigh have like modern good bodies.
Yeah.
Which
No,
you
they
don't-
have modern.
Yeah.
It's not gross. It's like
A lot of
No,
those
they're
old movies, you're looking
sexy.
at Jimmy Stewart shirtless, and you're like, "Did you ever eat a meal? What the fuck is
no,
going
this
on?"
guy. You understand why he's broke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because he's so handsome.
tall. He's handsome.
But they had checked in. They checked once with. They wanted to go check the hotel, see
Yep.
what's going on.
And they go to the sheriff first.
They go to the sheriff.
And the
first.
sheriff- it's the worst sheriff I've ever
I
seen.
confused the highway patrolman for the sheriff's actor name. So
Right.
anybody who
that
brings that
sheriff
up,
and the
I'm
wife.
sorry. I know I'm going to read it in the fucking.
The
YouTube
sheriff is
comments
literally
already.
like, "This guy's on the level." Like he's literally he calls and he's like, "Well, he said he didn't do it." I'm like,
Right.
"Yeah, that's not how you solve crimes,
right.
dude."
But
You
the
don't
reason they
ask.
realize it's wrong is because they're like something really suspicious was his mom was there
and
it's
they're like,
well,
the
his
mom died. Yeah.
Which is a reveal. That's a big
That's the
moment.
big
And then
reveal.
also, she says that the mom, it was a murder suicide, right? So
strychnine.
yeah,
Yep.
so that's why he's fucked up, and you're like, okay, I'm confused.
Yeah, you're like, she killed her lover and then killed herself, or
But right
that's
now,
what
watching
you
this,
think.
you're still thinking like, okay, but maybe now she is alive,
Right,
and
maybe she
she's-
never died.
and it was someone else he killed. But then that doesn't add up,
Right.
No, none of it adds up.
And the reason why Arbogast goes back to the motel is because he does see the woman, and because the mother, and because Anthony Perkins, Norman Bates, is giving him false information
And
about
he's
her.
busted him in it.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, look at her name and all this stuff. So there's a reason why he goes into the house, because he is convinced now this guy is hiding shit. Like, there's something to be had.
Yeah, but that's why PIs, like, you need a warrant for that shit. He's breaking the rules right there. You got to be careful. You got to have backup.
But then they go into
funniest.
the. But you're right. They go into the cop's house, the sergeant, and he knows him, and he calls Norman. Doesn't he call him on the phone?
Yeah, it's a small town. You're like,
Yeah.
that's just a town weirdo.
Yeah, and he's like, "Have you seen this guy?" And he's like, "No."
I mean,
And
what he
that's it. That's
wanted to
enough
say
for
is
him.
like, this is the town gay. It's our town gay.
He's
We know he's
unclear.
gay, but he doesn't
It's
bring it up,
unclear.
and we don't bring it up, and
Yeah.
we get along better that way.
Right.
Gary Veter and I have a thing where, like, literally every small town we go to, there's one trans person, and they're the barista. That's what they always are, just the barista.
True.
You're like they treat them well here. That's where they go.
That's where they go.
They make you a good latte.
They make you a good latte.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, well, Norman, I guess, takes that for this, but he's the hotel manager.
So Sam and Lila pretend to be a married couple, pulling over to the side of the road.
And even Norman's like, wait, you picked her?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Because I feel like you should be with someone slightly hotter. That's all I'm saying.
Don't get me wrong. I think they're all gross. But empirically, I would go with Janet Leigh.
Yeah. So, then they have no suitcases or anything. And Norman's like, he feels weird about it. So he takes his mom's body away, and you can hear him talking.
Well, this is before
the mom's
they
voice.
get there.
Yeah.
Oh, he does. He puts it in the cellar.
He's put it in the fruit cellar.
Because Arbor gas. That's right.
Yeah. So we removed that, which is. That's the one scene that's like a little weird because you're like, especially if you know that he's the mom, it's just like him holding a dump. It's the one Weekend at Bernie's scene where it's like he's like basically taking a Halloween decoration.
So wait, he puts her. I thought he moved her once they got there because he knew they were looking.
He knew they were coming, but when they got there, we're already there. So.
Right. And then she
goes.
Guys,
this is how the sausage is made.
Yeah,
no worries.
We love it. And then Lila goes into the house because Sam preoccupies Norman Bates, asks him a ton of questions, taxidermy, traveling, life.
It starts friendly and it gets heated pretty quickly.
Heated real quickly.
Because he knows this dude's bad news.
Yep.
And he's like, I'm bigger than this dude. I'll fuck this guy up. And then Norman, with a cheap shot, breaks his head over. And I'm like, dude, come on. She's alone in his house. Mm-hmm. You know, the homely sister is alone.
Again, no crime is committed. He's like, he thinks he's getting robbed. He's running to his house. To try to protect
and she
his house.
runs upstairs to the mother's room and sees, it's a little creepy. Yeah. There's like clothing out. Wasn't there an indentation?
But you can tell she was like, this is creepy, but it's great real estate.
It really.
A beautiful room.
Yeah,
high ceilings.
this in the Hamptons, you're going to get a lot of night for bed and breakfast.
But then she ends up running downstairs. He comes in and it's like, as a movie watcher, you're like, go down there. Because I want to see what happens.
Yes, go to the cellar.
And she's in the cellar, and that's when Norman comes in, dressed as his mother, just with the knife, attacking her. She sees the body swing around. It's like basically the mom's a coconut at this point.
Yeah,
it's like
with a wig on.
It looks like a monkey coconut type of combo. But
Norman runs over with the knife. Sam comes to the rescue, holds him, and you just see the way Norman his face is moving. He's just like this, and you're like, ooh, that's creepy.
Yeah,
that's how good this guy is. Because I was like, this must have been the hardest scene to pull off as an actor, and he does great.
Yeah.
Where it's just like he looks like kind of confused and
he's fantastic. Was he nominated for an Oscar for this?
He was nominated, but he didn't win.
Yeah.
Nobody
was. He's so good.
No, he wasn't nominated.
Anthony Perkins wasn't?
I think Janet Leigh was nominated.
She was supporting, I think.
Yeah, she won for Best Supporting.
Yeah.
No, she was nominated, but she never
That's crazy he wasn't nominated for this
No.
because it's just such an iconic movie. But I feel like a lot of the best movies, you know, in their time, they don't get the love they deserve.
Right.
For sure.
And Hitchcock's, I feel like all his movies are like he's made so many of my favorite movies. But
well, that's why when they finally gave him an Oscar, he just said thank you and he left. That was his speech because he was so pissed off. Which now it's like it
was like a Lifetime Achievement Oscar though.
Yeah,
Wasn't it?
it was like a
it was like one of those. So
it was like a we fucked up Oscar.
Right.
We fucked up.
We don't have any more time to give you one because you're dying.
They should call the award the We Fucked Up Oscar.
We fucked up.
Maybe,
oh man,
Pacino
for Scent of a Woman.
Oh my god!
Come on.
We owe you one.
For
Departed.
I
like The Departed.
I love The Departed too.
It's not
but
his best
that's
movie,
his best movie. You know,
it wasn't the best movie that year even, but it was a great movie.
So okay, what ends up happening at the very end is they're now, Sam and Lila are with the police chief.
Yeah.
And they have Norman in a room with the therapist comes in.
And the therapist comes in with a lot of information very quickly.
So much
He's figured it all out like that. And the point where he's like, what happened with Norman is he's absorbed his mother.
The Shrink is my favorite character.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I love him.
And then there's one guy who's like, so he's a transvestite. I'm like, that's what you got from this? You got transvestites from all this?
It's Dr. Fred Richmond, right? And it's Simon Oakland. Do we have that right? We'll just look up who's the psychiatrist.
Anyway, he's figured it all out. It's a great scene because, you know, especially in like 1960, you know, people were like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
It's just being a doctor in the 60s is hilarious because it comes in. First off, Like, he breaks the fact that her sister's dead in the most casual way
Oh,
ever
yeah.
seen. He goes, sorry,
It's
sorry,
Simon
sweetheart.
Oakland is the actor's name.
She's
Simon
at the
Oakland.
bottom of a cranberry bog. You know, like
The
Simon
money's in the
Oakland.
car. I'm like, you figured this all out this quickly?
Yeah.
And it's all like 1950s psychology.
Yes,
It's like,
he's
well,
very
of course he's
casual.
gay. He's flat-footed.
Right.
But he was dressed. But he was like, he's a transvestite. It's like, no, he's not a transvestite. He's absorbed his mother, and they're like, oh, and I'm like, well, that's weird too.
Right.
That's just, you're just accepting
Explain.
that.
Yeah.
And the sister doesn't cry at all. She's just like, oh.
Yeah.
It's almost like she's
Like, it
realizing,
makes-
she's like, this was such a pain in the ass. This is just like my sister.
Yeah, it's
Making
fucking
us
stealing
you know
money,
what?
and now I gotta
I'm
deal with
sad
this.
she's dead, but I get it.
But I'm gonna move on. Maybe it was
get it.
Sam. Maybe
Yeah,
they end
maybe
up
with
together.
Sam.
Maybe it was Sam. No, he what I love that they do at the end is, because as a viewer you're watching this and you're like, why would he do this? Who is this? And the psychiatrist just explains everything so perfectly about what triggered him to become mother, that by the end, when you just see Norman in the cell wrapped in a blanket, remember the fly lands on him and he doesn't
great.
swat at it, and then it's the mother's voice.
And then you realize the whole thing is just...
Now he's completely become the mother.
It's
Like
all
Norman's
an
not even
allegory
in there.
for what the Mike Pence presidency will be.
I mean, it pretty much.
You know, like, because that's what Norman Bates is Mike Pence. The
He
mother
is
is
mother.
Trump. It's just yelling. I also, not that we'll ever get to this riff, guys, but I did write Mark Norman Bates, which is the same thing, but he just talks about how fat his mom's getting. You wouldn't believe how fat my mom is. She can't even get out of the house. She's so fat.
You're gonna kill me. All right.
But yeah, this does feel like, I started imagining, like, when he does the fly thing, I was like, oh, that's Mike Pence, and then I just started imagining, like, Trump, like, because that's like Trump as the mom, just be like, oh my God, why are you wearing that dress? You're gay. You know, like,
the look he gives at the end is so creepy. I mean, it's definitely one of those movies that it's satisfying. You get a satisfying ending, but you leave like, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
I mean, you feel that way now. I can't
it's
imagine.
a happy ending if you were worried about the car.
Right.
You know, because they bring
and
the
the
car
money.
up and
Yeah.
the money.
That money ain't good though anymore.
It's not good.
Soaking wet.
No, it's
Although,
you can-
did he throw it in the suitcase though? I think
No,
he does.
I think it'd be already.
Or he just throws it on top.
That would be a hilarious.
That
ending.
dude's just
the
pissed.
ending. It's just
Yeah.
like the ending is just a cowboy hat, a guy drying all his money. Goes, that dumb bitch.
Yeah, well, you should have given
Psycho.
you should have given the money to the homely looking chick in that office. You still
Yes.
have your 40K, okay?
Exactly.
Sure.
Hitchcock's daughter would have.
She's
dropped it
married.
off.
She ain't going nowhere.
No, she's living baked goods with
tranquilizer.
it. She's like, oh, she brought me muffins with the money. This is nice.
You don't give it to the hot wild card, man.
No.
I don't think I took any other notes on this. I forgot. I took some notes.
I did see something about the candy corn. Another
You
note.
always-
I have to just tell you guys this because it's so Anthony Perkins ate it like a bird.
I
'Cause he
wrote
looks
that
like
down.
one. Yeah, because
He
he's pecking
eats it
at
like
it.
a fucking bird.
That's why. And it's like he's mimicking. It's the sound effect, but also he's eating it like a bird. He's like
Yeah.
pecking at it, and he looks like a bird too, like the neck and stuff. Yeah,
and that's his
and
hobby.
that's what he thought would
Yeah.
be. Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting because and he's like, he's like dead inside basically, just like the
100%.
birds. Like he's been absorbed. The mother's, absorbed.
Oh, that mother.
And the
that
real
mother.
Ed Gein never got out. He tried to get out once.
And we find out Norman actually killed the mother and the lover because he was jealous. So it wasn't a murder-suicide.
Yeah.
He poisoned both of them.
Yeah. And then to deal with that, the fact he couldn't accept that, so
Mm-hmm.
the trauma made him into the mother rather than accepting it. But then, is this the movie that made Mother creepy? Because I feel like without this movie, it might not be as like Mother might be accepted. But
I don't know. I wouldn't have to.
Have you ever called
When
your
was Mommy
mom
Dearest?
mother?
That was 70s, right?
Dan, did you ever call your mom mother?
No.
No,
I've never said
I think
mother.
people say
Mom,
I said
mommy.
mom.
But this movie definitely is
I
like
call my
what made
dad
it.
daddy still. Is that weird?
You definitely do. When you guys take showers
Dad,
together.
Daddy, help me shower, Daddy.
Daddy,
You're
my
39. You're 39 years old.
Have you ever seen Orson Welles on a talk show?
I've seen clips, but
Yeah.
It ain't great. It ain't great. You're expecting some good stuff, and he's just like, he's so awkward, and like, I think Orson Welles actually is that witty, so he can he's a killer talk show guest. But you watch Hitchcock, and you're just like, this dude is not funny. Orson Welles is funny as fuck.
saddest was-
I'm telling you, read this book, My Lunches with Orson. It's literally it's the dumbest. like he's an insane person. There's one part where like there's this guy Henry Jaglom who's trying to get him his first movie. He's like, I'm trying to get you in this. Like, please be in my movie. So Peter Bogdanovich gives him his information. He's like, he's at this hotel. He won't do your movie. And Henry Jaglom's like, he's my favorite filmmaker. I'm going to show up. He shows up at his hotel in New York. Orson answers it in like purple silk pajamas. And he's like, I'm your biggest fan. Please do my first movie. He goes, I never do a director's first movie. Never. and he goes, that's not true. You did Citizen Kane, and that was your first movie. And he goes, no, I won't do it. I'll never do your movie. Never, ever. And he goes, I know you're an amateur magician. You be playing a magician. Please do this. And Orson just pauses and he goes, can I wear a cape? And he does it. That's all it took. It's like, I mean, he's like, and then they just became like best friends. But he's a complete dude. There's a whole chapter where there's a woman from HBO. It's like their conversations. A woman from HBO shows up, and Orson like pitches this idea, and she's like, "Oh, I don't really get it." And he's like, "You're terrible. You're dead behind the eyes. I can't pitch to you." And he's like, "She's trying to be nice. She just didn't understand one thing." And he's like, "Oh, I hate you people. I can't pitch." And so you see why this dude could not get shit made, but he was like a genius.
He was like, insane too.
Can I give you Orson Welles on Woody Allen?
Oh, it's gold.
Yes.
It's gold. This is one of the best parts of the book.
I hate Woody Allen physically. I dislike that kind of man. He has the Chaplin disease. That particular combination of arrogance and timidity sets my teeth on edge. Like all people with timid personalities, his arrogance is unlimited. Anybody who speaks quietly and shrivels up in company is unbelievably arrogant. He gets shy, but he loves himself. A very tense situation. It's people like me who have to carry on and pretend to be modest. To me, it's the most embarrassing thing in the world. A man who presents himself at his worst to get laughs in order to free himself from his hang-ups. Everything he does on the screen is therapeutic.
Yeah.
He does say some anti-Semitic shit in there.
There's some Jewish stuff.
Like the way
Here's the thing about Orson Welles. He hates everyone. Like at one point, there's one part of the book where he's like, oh, that damn Irish. And he goes, you hate he goes, you're racist. He goes, oh no, I'm just saying what people think. I'm like, well, that's still kind of racist.
Yeah, I mean,
but he hates
we didn't say racism was wrong. We just said it was
No, I think he just, that last part about that's self-deprecation, that's comedy. He misses that. But he's kind of right about Woody Allen. Woody does present himself, and I love Woody Allen.
Dude, there's a lot of comics like that. Where it's
where he's like, oh shucks, and I'm like, you raped someone.
Yes.
Or it's just,
you fucked your daughter.
It's just like an alpha male. It's like, you're a secret alpha male, bro.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, you know those dudes who are like, I think he's right about saying Woody's fake. Like that character's not the real Woody.
Yeah.
You see that, but.
Favorite.
But he's wrong about comedy. You can present yourself at the worst because that's the funniest.
You've seen Ed Wood, right?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies ever. But like Vincent D'Onofrio plays Orson Welles at the very end, and at the very end, Ed Wood finally meets Orson Welles at a bar, and he's like, "Oh my god!" And he's like, "How are you going?" The studio I was trying to make cast Charles Heston as a Mexican.
He trashes Heston too.
What does he say about Heston?
Because Touch of Evil, Heston was called that like a minor work of his, and he was like, "How dare he?" Like it's a great.
Oh, that's it. Those guys like they keep in their craw forever.
Yeah, I think he just had beef with everyone, and then if there's anyone he likes,
who did he like?
He liked Joseph Cotten because he put him in all his shit. Like they were in Third Man together. He was in the Magnificent Ambersons together. They were close, but he shits on even people he likes. He'll shit on in the book. That's why it's so funny. Like goddamn, what's the actor from Gone with the Wind?
Clark Gable.
Clark Gable. He was like, oh, incredible actor, but dumb as a rock, and he's like, these actors, they sit in makeup chairs for 4 hours, they work all day, and then they try to get pussy. So he's like, they don't have brains, they don't read. And I mean, the amount of anecdotes in this book that are just like, you can't. It's the dumbest, funniest shit you've ever read because it's just literally like. Every podcast when it ends and you just shit talk people, that's the book. It's just him being like, oh, fuck that. People walk in, like famous people walk up to him in restaurants and he's like Richard Burton is like, hello, Orson. He's like, can't you see I'm having a conversation? Like that's written in the book that he's just rude to Richard Burton. And you're like, that's...
You just said something that struck me. And there is something about like the dumbest guys I've ever met are the ones who are like early 40s, late 30s, are still really hot, but they haven't like they're just kind of like, oh, what are you? Oh, I'm a bartender. And it's like they didn't use any of that hotness. They just used it for pussy the whole time.
Right.
So instead, like, what you're having is like just this kind of cipher dude.
Right, it made them more dumb too.
Yeah.
Like all that fucking.
If you don't use it.
Yeah.
Well, Orson Welles was a hot young guy.
He was.
And then he got fat as shit.
Like, how big did he get?
He got so fat. That was another part where they said he would order like he'd be like, I guess I could have one bite of sorbet at dinner, and then he'd go back to his room and order 6 sirloins.
Sounds like someone else I know.
But he was a thin guy when he was young. I mean, Citizen Kane, he was a lean guy.
Yeah, we were all thin guys at one point. Anyway, Sam, where can we find you?
When does this come out?
This is going to be coming out
October 5th.
October 5th.
This weekend, 5th through 7th, I'm in Phoenix at Stand Up Live, and then the end of the month we got Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, and Indianapolis. November 4th, Theater Madison Square Garden.
Woo.
Later that month, we got all over Australia.
Oh my God! Is that this is the first time you play the Garden, right?
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Wow. Never been
I'm
there.
gonna try to see what date is it?
November 4th.
I'm gonna try to see.
Come through, dude. And
Yeah,
then,
let's do it.
And then we got what else? A lot of shit, dude. I'm adding like crazy. And then Vegas at the Win. Tampa,
Vegas at the Win for the win, everybody.
And then Fort Myers, and then I'm going hard like Buffalo.
Then you're going hard?
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
like
going
Buffalo.
hard. I'm doing like 7 weeks straight. And I'm
Missouri.
I'm like Sam.
No, I'm going hard this year, and because I want to tape a new special in March, so I'm going so fucking hard the next year. I'm out every week.
It's really impressive. It won't be impressive when you're like 70 and Mr. Potter, like sitting in your giant mansion being like, I should have done less funny bones. I should have done less funny bones.
I should have loved.
I should have loved.
All I have is the corpse of this pug, taxidermy style, like Norman Bates.
Michelle left long ago, but she gave me
the
dog skeleton to keep me company.
This dog's insane.
Look at that
this.
tongue. I can't.
All right,
Oh,
dude,
I'm
thank
obsessed.
you so much.
Yeah, this
Thank
was
you
fun.
so
This was
much.
fun.
Appreciate it. Thank you,
Thanks,
buddy.
guys.
Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed what you saw,
Like and subscribe.